Welcome to Life Stories. What would you do if the man who once shattered your world came back, not for you, but for the children he never knew existed? She gave him everything: her love, her future, her faith. And when he left for someone younger, richer, shinier, she didn't just survive, she vanished, quietly carrying a secret that would change everything. Years later, at a glittering gala meant to celebrate her triumph, fate throws her and him into the same room for the first time in half a decade. And standing between them, three little faces that look just like him. This is not a story of revenge. It's a story of reckoning, of rebuilding, of what love really looks like after it's been broken into pieces. Let's go back to where it all began. The morning light slid across the hardwood floors of Claire Donovan's townhouse like a memory she couldn't quite shake. Soft, golden, and deceptively warm. She stood barefoot in the kitchen, cradling a chipped mug of black coffee she hadn't sipped, staring past the window into a world that had once belonged to her. The house was modest compared to the palatial estate she had shared with Nathan years ago, but it pulsed with something that mansion never had: authenticity. Silence that wasn't cruel, and walls that didn't echo with absence. From the outside, Claire's life looked orderly. Founder of Rooted Rising, a nonprofit supporting single mothers, a published author, keynote speaker, her face had graced panels and podcasts, her voice a balm for women rebuilding from ashes. But that morning, something flickered behind her eyes, a ripple in a still pond. Her children, triplets now 5, were asleep upstairs, their giggles still lingering on the stairs from the night before. Caleb, Ava, and Riley, her everything. No one, not even her closest colleagues, knew the full truth about how they came to be. 5 years ago, Claire had been someone else entirely, the loyal wife of tech entrepreneur Nathan Donovan, a rising star with charming dimples and an ego to match. They met in college, him with his startup sketches, her with her red pen of corrections and quiet fire. She'd supported him through pitch decks and panic attacks, teaching by day, editing by night. She'd funded their first year out of school, sold her car to pay for his accelerator program, and celebrated when he landed on the cover of Fast Company. But success did something to Nathan. The man who used to whisper, "Us against the world," now took conference calls during dinner and wore cologne she didn't recognize. It was at the annual Hope for Children gala where Claire noticed her husband's smile curving towards someone else. Lexi Monroe, Instagram famous, lip-glossed ambition in a satin gown, 26. Claire had spent 3 weeks organizing the event, even wearing the emerald green dress from their first date. She remembered how it used to make Nathan pause. That night, he didn't even glance her way. He laughed, head tilted back, hand low on Lexi's back, as if the world had been reset and she no longer existed in it. 3 weeks later, Nathan came home early. Claire still remembered the way the rain tapped on the windows like it was trying to warn her. He said it simply, as if announcing a change in the weather. "We've grown apart." He never mentioned Lexi. Claire didn't scream. She didn't cry. Not until later. Not until he left and she found the divorce papers waiting at the door like a final insult, life delivered not by hand, but by courier. She had stayed in that house, the marble and glass mausoleum of their marriage, for 2 weeks after he left. Then came the collapse. Dizzy for days, too exhausted to eat, Claire fainted in the hallway with a grocery bag still clutched in her hand. In the ER, under flickering fluorescent lights, a kind-faced doctor gently delivered news that felt like fiction. She was pregnant, with triplets. "I didn't even think it was possible," she whispered, voice cracking. Once." The doctor nodded, solemn. Once was enough. She didn't tell Nathan, not because of bitterness, but because of foresight. She knew exactly what he would do. He would claim them as part of his brand, turn their lives into bullet points on an investor deck. He would take them from her in every way that mattered. Claire chose silence. She left the house, changed her name back, and started over in a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and paper-thin walls. Her parents had long passed. Nathan's family had disappeared the moment the ink dried on the divorce. She was alone until she wasn't. She began writing, quietly at first, a blog called Rise From This. She chronicled pregnancy pains and fear, but also resilience, how a woman could be broken open and still be whole. Her words found others: widows, divorcees, forgotten women. They wrote back. A sisterhood formed, invisible but powerful. When the triplets arrived after an emergency C-section, they were barely the size of Claire's forearms. The NICU became a second home, its sterile light etching itself into her soul. She named them from the notes she had written in her journal: Caleb, Ava, Riley. 3 tiny heartbeats who changed everything. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted strength. She turned her blog into a resource platform. By the time the kids turned 2, she was running virtual support groups. By 3, she had legal aid clinics and digital workshops for women escaping abuse. By 4, Rooted Rising had secured its first physical center in downtown Los Angeles. Through it all, she never spoke Nathan's name publicly, never mentioned the betrayal, and no one ever asked. Her children had never seen a picture of him, never asked why they didn't have a father in the family portraits. Until recently. That morning, the letter arrived. Cream cardstock, gold embossed seal, an invitation to the very gala where her life had unraveled years ago, the Hope for Children event. But this time she wasn't in the audience. She was the keynote speaker. She flipped through the guest list, heart slowing as she reached the donors section. Nathan Donovan. Claire stared at the name for a long time, frozen mid-scroll. Her heart did not break, but something stirred, a shift, a tremor. Upstairs, one of the girls giggled in her sleep. Claire closed her eyes and whispered to no one, "They're not his story to tell." But fate had other plans. Because what Claire didn't know, what would shatter the fragile stillness she had built, was that the children's choir invited to perform that night, the one organized by Hillside Elementary, Caleb, Ava, and Riley were in it, and their father would be there, waiting in the dark, unaware that the spotlight was about to reveal not just a stage, but the 3 lives he never knew he left behind. Have you ever had to choose between truth and protection? What would you do if the past showed up right in front of your children? The night of the gala would not just be a reunion. It would be a reckoning. And in part 2, the world watches as the woman who rose from ruins stands face to face with the man who lit the match. The chandeliers in the Grand Monarch Hotel sparkled like constellations, refracting light in a ballroom too pristine for real memories. Claire Donovan stood just beyond the curtain, her palms damp, her breathing measured. Her navy gown moved with her like a second skin, simple, elegant, purposeful. She didn't wear it for him. She wore it because this version of herself, the one who rose alone, deserved to be seen. On stage, the MC introduced the final surprise of the evening, a performance by the Hillside Elementary Choir. The audience applauded politely, unaware that what was about to unfold would fracture the room's illusion of composure. Claire stepped back into the shadows as 30 children filed in, neat rows, white shirts, navy vests. Then she saw them. Caleb standing slightly ahead of the others, as if sensing the weight of something unspoken. Ava, eyes darting through the crowd, looking for her mother's face. Riley fidgeting with her braids, lips moving silently, practicing the words. Claire's throat closed. The lights caught them like a photograph she hadn't meant to take, one she couldn't unsee. A few tables down, Nathan Donovan leaned back in his chair, amused and oblivious. Lexi was nowhere in sight, but his glass of champagne was full and his laughter too easy. Claire watched his profile as the music began, a nostalgic arrangement about hope and seasons and belonging. He clapped softly, leaned to whisper to someone beside him, then froze. His gaze snapped to the stage. It was Riley who caught him first. Her face, her posture, her mouth shaped just like his when he smiled. Claire didn't need to see his expression. She could feel it from where she stood. His world shifted, his certainty splintered. After her speech, met with a standing ovation, Claire didn't stay to mingle. She took the service elevator, exited through the kitchen, and drove home alone under a sky that felt too quiet. Her phone buzzed just after midnight, a number she hadn't seen in 5 years. She stared at the screen until it stopped. Then came a text. "We need to talk." The next day, they met at Marlowe Park, where the children often played on weekends. Claire arrived first, sitting on the same bench where she once cried in the early weeks of pregnancy, scarfing down saltine crackers and Googling how to survive a high-risk birth alone. Now the trees were green again, children laughed nearby, and her heart thudded in the center of her chest like a warning drum. Nathan arrived with 2 coffees and uncertainty all over his face. He looked older, still composed, still polished, but diminished somehow, like a man who had only just realized the mirror he'd been admiring was fogged from the inside. "I had no idea," he said, offering her the coffee. Claire took it, her voice cool. "No, you didn't. They're mine?" She didn't answer right away. She let the question hang there, cruel and weighty, because the answer wasn't the point. "They're mine," she said instead, and something in his expression collapsed. He sat beside her, but left space, maybe instinctively, maybe out of shame. "I didn't come here to argue. I don't want to disrupt your life, Claire, but after last night, I can't not know them." Claire's jaw tightened. "You had the chance to know them before they were born. You chose something else. I didn't know. You didn't ask." Silence settled between them, heavier than before. Nathan looked out at the playground. "Caleb, he stood like I do. He even tilted his head the same way when the music started. And Ava, she has your eyes. But Riley, she smiled, and it just hit me." Claire's voice dropped, something sharp curling beneath her calm. "You don't get to notice them now like they're new inventions. They are not extensions of your regrets." He flinched. "I deserve that, but I'm not here to claim anything. I'm here to ask." "For what?" "A chance. I don't expect forgiveness. I want to be present. I want to do the work. Therapy, visits, slowly, however you say." Claire studied him, uncertain if this man sitting beside her was the same person who once walked out like she was a chapter he had outgrown. But then a darker thought slithered in. What if he was willing to do the work? And what if the children loved him for it? What if they chose him, trusted him, forgave him, before they ever truly understood how he had left? Her voice dropped. "They don't know who you are. Not yet. I told them you were a traveler, a man I once knew, someone who used to dream about the stars." He nodded slowly. "That's fair. I'll agree to one thing," she added. "You meet them. Not as their father, as someone important to me. We introduce it gently, and you earn the rest." "I will," he said, but there was something else in his eyes now, something Claire didn't expect. Fear. Not of her. Of them. Of the possibility that love, once abandoned, might not open the door again. What would you do if the person who once shattered you wanted to step into the life you built without them? Could trust ever grow again in the shadow of silence? As Nathan steps closer to the children he never knew, and Claire risks reopening a door she locked for good reason, one truth becomes clear. Forgiveness may not be the hardest part. It's letting go of the person you had to become without them. It happened on a rainy Saturday morning, the kind that soaked sidewalks and made every leaf shimmer like glass. Claire stood under the overhang at the soccer field, arms crossed, a thermos of coffee warm against her chest. Caleb was midfield, eyes narrowed in fierce concentration. Ava sat on the bench beside her, counting worms in the mud with philosophical seriousness, while Riley twirled in the puddles like rain was music. Nathan was late. Claire didn't expect him to show, not really. 2 months had passed since their first conversation at Marlowe Park, and in that time he had made small but careful steps. He showed up to one school event, silent, attentive, and took Claire's advice to heart. No grand gestures, no titles, no explanations, just presence. Once he and Caleb played chess in the corner of a library. Riley painted him a picture of a red dog with wings. Ava had yet to speak more than 10 words to him, but she watched him with eyes too old for her age, eyes Claire recognized from the mirror. But now it was raining, and Claire was tired. She turned to gather the kids when a black umbrella emerged from the parking lot. Nathan jogged toward them, soaked to the knees, his hair a mess for the first time in years. He looked ridiculous. Human. "I'm sorry," he said, breathless. "There was an accident on the bridge. I should have left earlier." Claire only nodded. She didn't smile, but she didn't walk away. He stood beside her quietly as the game resumed. The silence between them had changed. It was no longer thick with accusation. It was cautious, complicated, but no longer cruel. Afterward, Caleb ran up, cheeks flushed. Did you see my goal? Nathan knelt. Every second. Ava handed him a worm. This one's name is Lester. He took it carefully, like it was a crown. Lester's got style. Riley skipped over and pointed at the sky. Do you think rain is the sky's way of crying happy tears? Nathan looked up, blinking against the drops. Maybe it is. Claire watched them, a tug in her chest she couldn't name. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it wasn't resentment either. That night, after the kids were asleep, she sat alone on the couch, flipping through old notebooks. One page caught her eye, a list she had written on the hospital bed the night the triplets were born. 5 things I must become, it read. Underneath, safe, steady, brave, honest, free. She hadn't thought about that list in years. The next week, Nathan asked to bring the children to the botanical gardens. Claire agreed on the condition that she come along. They wandered through paths blooming with early spring. Ava asked questions about photosynthesis. Caleb tried to catch frogs, and Riley insisted that every flower had a secret name only she could hear. At one point, while the kids were distracted by a duck pond, Nathan turned to Claire. I'm not here to rewrite the past, but I do want to be part of what's next, even if I'm just someone who shows up. Claire stared at the children, their silhouettes soft in the golden light. It's not about whether I believe you, she said. It's about whether they will, and whether they'll be better for it. A week later, Riley drew a picture at school. 3 kids, a woman with curly hair, and a man holding a balloon that said, sorry. When her teacher asked, Riley explained, that's Mommy. That's us. That's the man who made us but left. But he came back with a balloon. Claire found the drawing in Riley's backpack, and for the first time in years, she wept where no one could see. The months passed. Nathan became a fixture, not daily, but consistent. He brought snacks to school plays. He learned their favorite books. He sat through tea parties and dinosaur lectures. He never asked for credit. He never called himself Dad. Until one day, Caleb asked him, Are you my father? Nathan froze. Claire, across the room, looked up sharply. Nathan knelt to Caleb's level. I'm the man who helped bring you into this world, but your mother, she's the one who raised you. So yes, I'm your father, but only if you want me to be. Caleb thought for a moment. I think I want to try. Claire didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Something softened in her. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. That summer, Rooted Rising launched its second community center, this time in Chicago. Claire gave the keynote. Nathan sat quietly in the back with the kids, Ava curled into his side, Riley wearing a cape made of glitter tulle. When Claire finished her speech, a reporter asked if her success was fueled by revenge. She laughed. No, my success is fueled by survival. And my children, they are my beginning, middle, and always. Later that night, she walked out onto her porch, the kids finally asleep. Nathan stood at the edge of the walkway about to leave. Why didn't you fight harder? She asked, the question that had haunted her for years. His voice was soft. Because I didn't think I deserved to. I still don't. Claire stared at him. But you came back. He nodded. Too late. Maybe, but sometimes showing up late is still showing up. He stepped closer, hesitant. Do you think they'll forgive me? They already are, she said. The real question is, will you ever forgive yourself? He didn't answer. Just looked at her like she was something he never deserved to touch, but always hoped to be near. As he walked away, Claire turned toward the house. The porch light flickered above her like a heartbeat. Inside, on the refrigerator, Riley's latest drawing had been pinned up. 3 children, a mother, a man holding a balloon, and this time, everyone was smiling. What part of this story moved you most? If you love this journey, comment 100 below. We'd love to know where in the world you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that healing is possible. Thank you for watching Life Stories.